So this initiation took place in the property of John Lennon, which is known as Tittenhurst Park, about 25 miles outside of London. There were supposed to be 4 of us taking initiation that particular time. And to my right, there was this English fellow called Jimmy Doody. He was a businessman. He was quite wealthy, and he had this really pretty girlfriend, and he hadn't actually shaved up. And when Prabhupada was just about to start putting the colours for the fire yoga, Jimmy Doody's girlfriend appeared at a window just to the right of Prabhupada, and she didn't want to participate, but she wanted to catch Jimmy Doody's attention. And finally, he looks up and sees her. So he stands up, goes over to Prabhupada and whispers in Prabhupada's ear. He says, "Excuse me, Prabhupada, I just have to step outside a moment, is that all right?" And Prabhupada just kind of casually nodded his head and didn't say anything. And that was the last we saw of Jimmy Doody. So when I got the name Dhananjaya, Prabhupada explained, obviously this means the winner of wealth. He said that money is flying in all directions, and he started making some gestures with his hands. And he told me, he said, in this life you'll have no difficulty with money.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
This is a momentous occasion of the installation of Sri Sri Radha Landaneshwara on December 14th, 1969, on the occasion of Odan Shasti. The night before this event, Srila Prabhupada had us put 2 candles on the altar where the deities would stand and have a long kirtan to prepare for greeting them. This was all photographed by the BBC, who brought their cameras. And there was great advertising. There was standing room only, and people actually standing outside the temple looking in the window. The days leading up to this were feverish preparation. The altar was put together at the very, very last moment, much by Shyam Sundar's great and hard work. Shyam Sundar worked so hard on this event that Srila Prabhupada asked for a plaque to be installed at the front of the temple honoring Shyam Sundar for all the work that he had done in the preparation of making this a habitable place for the Lord.
We were initiated as a Grihastha family, my father, my mother, and 2 other brothers. This was on the 14th of December 1969. Here we see the start of an initiation ceremony. We were 9, 10 at the time, and initiation had a great significance for my parents because they were born in India. They had been raised in a family where initiation was considered important. We were surrounded by lots of devotee well-wishers and people who were really very, very pleased that we were being initiated, and equally we felt that wonderful beginnings of reciprocation which you would feel when you do become initiated, and how that grew in subsequent years, and how we came to relish the wonderful pastimes which Srila Prabhupada told us and the stories that he told us from various parts of the Vedic literature.
One of the high points of that installation of the Hare Krishna deities at the time was also my personal initiation. And I think if I remember, I was probably, let's say, this 3rd or 4th brahmachari to be initiated by him. But the initiation was to me very, very personal because I was at a very young age, 16 and a half, 17, and it was Srila Prabhupada, after meeting him, that I became attracted to Krishna consciousness, because before then I hadn't really had any interest in spiritual life apart from doing a little meditation under the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, but that was when I was at college. But for some unknown reason, Prabhupada came to me like a father figure more than as a spiritual teacher. And he could see that I was at a very, very young age. He could see that I was very vulnerable. So he didn't really preach that much to me about philosophy or about Krishna or whatever. It was much more of a son-father relationship. And he was more concerned about my personal well-being, my health, my age. That's how I was drawn to him. And I thought, this is the man I've been looking for all my life. And it was through his guidance and support that I've managed to carry on what I'm doing now. Even now, at my age, 55, 56, the principles that he taught me of humility, forgiveness, kindness, caring, are still there in my everyday existence. I don't think if I'd met Srila Prabhupada when I was 16 and a half, 17, that I would have probably survived physically beyond 19, 20 or 21 years of age, because that was the way things were in those days. You lived dangerously, doing whatever you were doing, and you died young. And Prabhupada came and saved me from that sort of existence.
Srila Prabhupada is saying not to cross over the Krishna bead. And there's 108 beads plus one Krishna bead. So we chant on the Gopi beads and just showing my father not to cross over the Krishna bead, but to go in opposite directions. And this is Jai Hari, also getting initiated. After many visits at the Conway Hall lectures and at Srila Prabhupada's flat in Baker Street and Ascot, John Lennon's estate, finally my father and mother are initiated in Bury Place. And this particular film is taken by Gurudas Prabhu. We were initiated, both my brothers, at the same time on this occasion. And in addition, my father and mother had second initiation given to them. And about 6 other devotees, including Dhananjaya Prabhu, were initiated for their second initiation. It's a week after Sri Sri Radhananda Ishwara were installed.
What was striking about that time in Bury Place, with Srila Prabhupada being there, was that it was like a family. The brahmacharis were all like my brothers. The brahmacharinis were like my sisters. The elders, like Jamuna, Malati, were like my mothers. And for me, it was like being in my real home. I finally thought to myself, this is what I've been looking for the last 16 years. This is home, and felt like home, because nobody patronized you or told you off for doing something that you shouldn't do. Everybody supported each other, and it was very, very much like a family. But in due course of time, that family got bigger and bigger and bigger as the years went by. And I think that's probably where it became perhaps sometimes a bit impersonal, whereby younger devotees that joined didn't have the experience of association of senior devotees to nurture them. And this is what I was very, very lucky, is because Prabhupada nurtured me. He knew the kind of qualities I had, whether I was restless, whether I had doubts, whether I was scared, whether I had issues emotionally. And without even me saying anything verbally to him, he knew it, and he would say something, so you have a problem with something, or are you okay? And I was thinking to myself, well, how did he know this, that I had an issue with something? But he knew it just by looking into my eyes. He had that ability to just look into people's eyes and know exactly what they were thinking or what they wanted to do. Travel was one of them that I wanted to do, so he encouraged me to travel, whether it was to Paris, to Amsterdam, to Los Angeles, wherever. There was never, oh, you can't do this, or you're too young for this, or this isn't allowed. He gave me the encouragement and inspiration to just do it and get it out of my system. And perhaps you've made a mistake. That's neither here nor there. The fact is that it's the experience of doing it. So if you have made a mistake, it's like Prabhupada always said, you can make one mistake, but never make the same mistake twice. So in that respect, he was forgiving, and he knew that no one was perfect, and mistakes can be made very, very easily. But the day of that initiation was like amazing, absolutely amazing, just so purifying and awe-inspiring. I'll never forget that day. Changed my life completely.
Shamsundar Prabhu had the wonderful vision of bringing the Californian redwood from America to build this Bari Place temple. And Srila Prabhupada did comment that once we moved to Soho Street, we were to keep that wood, and we did keep it at Chaitanya College. And later on, I had the privilege of working with Maheshwara Prabhu to build the Rath Cart, which we still have today. The same Rath Cart that has that Californian redwood. The wood was so solid, and it had a transcendental aroma. I remember when we were cutting it up and building the pieces for the Rath Cart, it was a transcendental experience just working with that wood.
Prabhupada waited for months. He pushed me so hard to finish this temple. I mean, this temple was a work of art that we put our hearts into because we were located in the center of downtown London. We wanted a very, very nice place where people could come, cosmopolitan people could come, Londoners could walk in and feel at home. Not a run-down storefront, but a proper temple. There were only 2 or 3 of us doing the work. We spent months building this temple room out of redwood that I brought from California and wood that we bought in England. It was a massive renovation. We tore out one floor and one above and made it a 2-story high room. And we had to soundproof the entire premises because we were right in the middle of a residential district. So everything was double-walled, and Prabhupada was very patient. But finally, after sitting in John Lennon's place and in various apartments for month after month, he arrived, I think, in September. Finally, he gave us a deadline that we had to have the temple opening by December. We were so busy, there were so few of us, and we had so many activities to perform that we didn't plan ahead very well. You know, we didn't even know where we were going to get deities, but we knew Krishna would take care of it somehow. This was the kind of spirit that prevailed in those days. Just work as hard as you can to spread Krishna consciousness, and things will happen, the magic will happen.
Srila Prabhupada was very pleased. This was his first Indian disciple that he'd made in London. And of course, not many Indian disciples came forward in those times. He wrote about 50 letters to my father about what was going on in the movement. My father felt Srila Prabhupada confided in him a lot.
The deities appeared, just as if by magic, only days before the installation was to take place, after so much preparation, months of building this temple, and no deities. We didn't give a thought. Where are these going to come from? So Krishna had to appear. He had to. He promises. But anyway, there they are, and they're still the most beautiful deities. They're in the Soho temple now in downtown. The Soho temple in London still maintains the spirit of Bari Place. It's right in the heart, just off of Oxford Street. Still attracts the same kind of young people, curious young people, along with men in suits and women in nice clothes. You know, it's not just a hippie center. That was the purpose of being in the center of London with a nice place. It attracted a higher class of people. But Prabhupada was very anxious to get moved in. When we left John Lennon's place, and the temple quarters were still not finished, so we took a temporary apartment on Baker Street for Srila Prabhupada, just near Regent's Park. That's where he saw the so-called moon landing on television. We worked day and night at Bari Place to finish by Prabhupada's deadline. When Prabhupada set a deadline, that was it. There was no budging. He was very lenient up until deadline time, and then it had to be finished. And we worked right up until the last moment to build the altar. In fact, the altar was not very well made because it was so hurried. Much more time was spent on the Vyasa-san and other features of the temple. George Harrison donated the marble for the altar, so we had a very nice slab of marble that was selected by David Wynne, who was the sculptor laureate of England. No canopy was made, so we had to very quickly construct a canopy, and you probably have read the story how that collapsed during the installation ceremony. Prabhupada became like Nrsingadev. He was so angry, and he held the canopy up from collapsing on the deities. I'd gone upstairs, I'd collapsed myself, so exhausted from the work. Afterwards I found out about it. I felt very bad. I came into Prabhupada's room to apologize for such a sloppy construction job, tears in my eyes, and Prabhupada laughed and he said, "Never mind." He said, "They did not want a canopy over their heads." He was so merciful, Prabhupada.
So glorious was this burial place temple. The deities are given the name Sri Radha London Ishwara, or the Ishwara is the grand supreme lord of the whole of London. Such a poignant moment, witnessing Srila Prabhupada leaving the burial place front door on his way to Boston on December 21st, 1969. All the devotees went to the airport to see Srila Prabhupada off, save myself, who stayed back at the temple. At the moment of Prabhupada's departure, just before he left, he walked into the temple room to say goodbye to the deities. He came in and paid obeisances, full out flat dandavats on the blue carpet, stayed on the ground for a long time. And when he got up, I noted that he had tears in his eyes. And he looked over at me and very matter-of-factly said, "If you just do as I have instructed, what I have taught you so far, you can go back to Godhead. Do it, just do it." And at that point I, of course, teared up and folded my hands and simply watched Srila Prabhupada as he turned and walked away out the front door. This is a thrilling film for me to see the airport seen as I didn't see it personally, but now I'm seeing it through the footage. Seeing all the devotees hanging on to every moment of Prabhupada's last few minutes with him. I'm always caught at the wonder of watching baby Saraswati, who was only about 13 months old at this point, but so spontaneously involved in the chanting of Hare Krishna and the worship of Prabhupada, sometimes following him very, very shyly behind her mother, and sometimes very boldly out front. But she was so present during the time that she spent with Srila Prabhupada. She was just a little baby body, but very, very consciously present. So devotees who experience these going and comings, either an arrival or a departure, were always wondering if they would ever see Srila Prabhupada again, and trying to capture the moment where he carried his bag and with his servants headed towards the departure gate and got on a plane and left. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you.